Hello, this is MacKenzie Feldpausch, and welcome to the Innovator's Mindset.
You did perfect. Let's
Hey!
go. Let's go. Okay, I know Mackenzie is hosting, but I do want to introduce her because Mackenzie, even though I've known you forever, right?
It's
And
been a
I've known
minute.
you forever, you've seen like basically me keynote over a 15-year span. She is the education programming manager for the Michigan Association of School Boards, and she works with trustees directly. And she's going to ask me about the book Forward Together, but I'm going to tell you a little secret before she starts hosting. She sent me a text last night, and Mackenzie used to be an English teacher. I'm like, oh no, it's like, did she like the book? Because like I'm getting, and then she told me she's like, the book is fantastic. Now you said I'm not gonna maybe put words
I
in her
didn't even pull out my red pen, so that should tell you
What?
something.
I didn't want to sleep last night anyway.
It's
I didn't want to sleep
fine.
last night anyway. So I just kind of just sat in your text. I'm like, oh, she hated the book, and
The
she.
book was great.
Thank
I
you.
loved the book.
And your opinion matters very much to me. And as much as I just this is a thing, and I know this is your podcast, so I'm like taking over
It's
already.
my podcast.
It's your
Yeah.
podcast. The thing with Mackenzie is she is super visionary. She does incredible things in Michigan. And what I love about you, you have all of those insights and intellect, and you are one of the most easygoing, relationship building people. And that's why you do so well, is because
Oh,
you do both of those things well. I've seen people who are really intelligent and but then also people who are very good with skills, people skills, but not necessarily always together. And you do both those things really well. And I think that's why like everyone loves you, by the way, where I was there. So
oh, thank
they really
you.
do. And so like I was honored to keynote your conference this last year. And I, one more thing,
Okay, you can keep talking about how great I
you
am.
reached
That's
out to
fine.
me and I've like known you forever. You're like, oh, it's George Couros. And I'm like, dude, we've been, how do I, like, why are you talking to me like this?
Well, you're big time now.
Stop it.
And so I
Never.
was like, maybe he has people. I don't
Well,
know.
you're,
And then
what?
the best part of that story though is the end. When I hit send on the Google form and 42 seconds later my phone rang with you saying, "What the heck?"
Well, can I introduce you to my team right now? I'm going to introduce you to
Yes,
my team.
please.
All right.
Yes.
So over here is me. And then on
And
this
then
side is
me.
me. This is the team. I like talking to people. So I don't like the middle person. So I appreciate it. So I will now turn it back over to you. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows how incredible you are
Oh,
before and how
thanks.
honored I am. Your feedback on the book and your work is really inspiring to me. And I just think you are just one of the best people ever. So
Oh,
yeah. So when
thanks.
you see me keynote in 10 years from now, I'll see if I got better then. So
Who wouldn't want to be on our podcast? You just come on, get told how great you are.
you are amazing. So this
So are
is,
you.
yeah. Okay.
Mutual admiration.
All right. All right.
So I did read your book.
I know you
Let's
did.
so if we're truth telling, I'm not sure you thought I read it all the way, but I did.
No, I knew you read it. I was
Okay.
scared you didn't like
Oh, I
it.
did like it. I liked it very much,
I
and
wasn't
I'll tell
worried you
you
didn't
why.
read it. I was worried you
No,
hated it.
I will tell you why I liked it so much.
All
How
right.
about that?
Okay.
So, I read a lot of books and I talk to a lot of people, and this this issue of like civility and working together is the topic on board members' brains
All right.
right now. It's the
Yeah.
thing that everybody wants to talk about. And a lot of things that I read and a lot of things I listen to are very kind of theoretical,
Mhm.
but it's a challenge to crosswalk them into life. And that is what you do so
Thank you.
well in this book, right? You're taking these principles and practices and taking them from, you don't even take them from theory to practice. You start with the practice
Appreciate that.
and end with the theory in a way that by the time you finish a chapter and you're like, oh yeah, yep, I get it. I'm with you. I'm all the way bought in, which I just think is a brilliant way to bring people along with you in a way that makes sense and we're instantly on board.
Well, and I will, and it's interesting because there is, and I so appreciate that, but you also saw it in practice, and I do want to like give a tip of something that I do, and you saw it. is I was blessed to be invited to keynote MASB this past year, but you and I talked about doing that breakout session, and you trusted me because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? To like say like I don't
Right.
know what's going to happen in the breakout. I'm like, they listen to me keynote, let's figure out. And so one of the things that I really had, and it was one of my favorite things, we were talking about this before, is I actually asked people to push back and challenge me. And
Yeah.
so it is something that I really enjoy. And there's like a lot of conversation is that, do you do it in a way that makes people feel worse, or do you actually make them feel valued and ensure that they're part of it too? And so you got to see that, but I think that's something that doesn't happen enough in education. And I guess I should preface that challenge happens in education all the time. It's just, are we actually, do we know about it? Are we privy to it? And if you
Right. It
invite it, that's
happens
what you do.
after in the parking lot.
Totally, totally. And so that's something I'm like, if we're gonna do it, let's just do it right here,
Yeah.
because and to actually have the sincere belief that I don't know if I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, right? And so I'm just sharing some ideas with you. I don't understand your context, I don't understand your community, and so you
Yeah.
you got to like so that is a lot of this stuff, as you said, is from practice and being wrong, trying to figure out how to do it right, how to get better at it, and so that was one of the things I love doing the keynote stuff. I do, but the conversations after, I think they really challenge me to be better and to really listen to people, but also to grow and to
Mhm.
honor people when they're uncomfortable with stuff. And I don't think we do that well enough. And I think we're scared of it sometimes. And it's not like I'm never scared of it, but I think it's, if you go in like, hey, I can get better too, then I think it's a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I hear from school board trustees is that that's a challenge, right? Like
Stuff.
positioning yourself in a way that you can be open
Mm-hmm.
and know that somebody in the room or even somebody at the board table with you
Yep.
thinks very differently than you do, and finding ways to approach those people
Mm-hmm.
and in the interactions that you have with those people in a way that doesn't make them an adversary,
Right.
but that you're coming together, um, and that inviting pushback is a way to do that. That you're just like folding that into your practices in life,
Yep.
right? Like it's it seems so simple yet is so difficult to
Yeah. And
do.
there is one part I talked about. I was talking about technology stuff, and I'm like, if you want to debate this, that's not what this book is about. In fact, I'm not debating anything, because
Yeah,
debate, there's a winner and loser, whereas I want to have
right,
discussions. And that
right.
is like, I did, and there was something I referenced in there about that, because when I'm not trying to win. Like, the win is, do we actually help kids? Not,
Yeah,
do I beat you? Right.
right.
So I think
So
that's a really important framing.
So when you are like, I know you've told stories and we've just talked
Mm.
about it, but like practically, what does that look like, do you think, in a moment of, whether it's public comment in a board meeting
Right.
or disagreement with a colleague, like how do you, what does that look like in real life? Like how do you practically manage yourself? Because you can't manage the other person,
100%.
right? Like how do you do that in real life?
Well, there's times where when I invite that stuff and actually have that pushback, and there's something that's said, and it's like a little bit like, oh yeah, 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 there's something going on here, right? And
Yeah.
instead of becoming defensive about it, and like to pretend it never affects me in a negative way is, would be a lie. Sometimes you're like, oh, is that like a George thing, or do they just not agree with, like, do they not like
Yeah.
me, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of times when something is said in a very negative way, one of the things I really try to do is say like, hey, can you give me a little more context? Like, what am I missing here? Is there something that I'm not understanding? Because then sometimes there's that like kind of one-off comment, and it's pretty rare that someone like insults you and then you're like, can you give me more context? And then they're like, oh no, I was just making sure you knew how much I hated you.
Right.
Right?
Just
There's
let me
like
double
some
down on how
there's
terrible you are.
yeah, there's something underlying that maybe you're not understanding and you're
Yeah.
kind of missing out on. And I think inviting that and just kind of like I think we're so quick to, be ready to fight and put our, fists up and, go back at that person and do that. And then like, what does that actually lead to? And even, when I was, one of the things when I, used to be an administrator, I would actually do some like centering stuff in the sense that, hey, like I know this conversation might not be going in the best way. I just want to make sure that we're understanding you and I are here to do its best for children, correct? And I don't say it as a
Mm,
statement. I say it as a question
the question.
because I want to hear them say yes. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we are both on that same page. Not and because that's something I'm trying to really focus on, and maybe there's something I said that maybe made you feel I didn't hit that mark. So like I want you to know that's where I'm at. Is that what we're doing right now? And I think it kind of centers people because ego gets involved in a lot of this stuff, but it's
Hmm.
just kind of sometimes just stepping back, asking questions, trying to better understand that perspective. Whereas, and I talk about this about the book, is like it used to be like you're wrong and I'm right.
Right. The
So
end. Yeah.
right, but there's obviously, and I think that's there's like context that you're missing. There's an experience that maybe we don't really understand, and then once that starts going through, it's like, oh, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it. Okay, so I did not know that. That makes a lot more sense to me, and then moving backwards from there. And it's not. It's. I know that if you're listening, this is not going to help you. Sometimes people are on one side and I'm on the other, and we get so frustrated when they don't just jump to us. Whereas what I'm trying to do is go to them, like go to them, and then just feel that little like if I can I get them making a step, but I have
Hmm.
to go to them first to make that step, and that I think that's one of the things that's really important to me is just not not being offended and being more curious. And there was like a whole part that I talked about, like we talk about curiosity, but it's actually being curious about people and why
About
they think the way they do.
people.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just
One of
information.
one of my favorite stories that you tell in the book, and I've heard you tell it in person too, is the story about when you were reffing the basketball game and you had the hecklers
Yeah.
in the stands. And then I'm going to tell it way worse than you do. But then, like at halftime or something, you
Mhm.
go up to talk to these guys, right?
Yeah.
And so, what, finish the story. Like, how
Well,
did that go for you?
well, they were yelling at me. This is a totally true story. No one's there except for like 10 people. And they're yelling at me. And I went up to them and I said, and they were, first of all, you might just, a lot of people, if they've never met me, they're like, you're really tall. So like, I'm a big guy. So I'm like 6'4". I'm like 210 pounds. I'm a big guy. So when I walk towards you, you might like, oh,
You
that
notice.
that ref is way bigger up close. And so you could see that. And it wasn't like being that guy, but it's like, oh, why is this big guy walking towards us now? Because that's not something refs typically do. And that was when I was a principal, and I just said, hey, like I really appreciate that you're here. I actually one of the things we strive for in our community is parent involvement. And I'm actually a principal, and to hear how you're talking. And so the thing that right away, they are being so horrible to me. And what I do, start with like, here's an appreciation I have for you. And if you really think about it, what's one of the biggest complaints that I hear in education right now? Parents are not involved. And I'm like,
Yeah,
these parents are these parents are involved. They're super involved.
real
Might
involved.
not
Yeah,
might not be the way that I want it to be, but this is I'm looking for the good. I'm looking for that.
yeah.
And I acknowledge it. I said, but like one of the things we talk about in our schools is character and how and I don't know if this is modeling what's best for them. And I won't tell the little turnaround story. I'm going to save that for the book. But
Okay.
I think people, when I walked away from it, they didn't actually yell at me anymore because, first of all, I made them feel appreciated for being there. And secondly, we talked about like, what are we actually like? We're talking about our kids all the time. And then they see us acting in a way that if they were doing the exact same thing in school, they'd be in trouble.
Right.
Right. So like, I think they knew that. And I didn't do it in a mean way. And like, listen, again, being totally vulnerable, it's not always easy. I'm not saying this is an easy thing, but it's like just take a step back. There was a short story shared about um, a speaker we had when I was early in my teaching career, and I was so frustrated all the time. And he said one, I cannot remember this guy's name. I can't remember anything else he said, but he said, never let an 8-year old ruin your day. I was like, oh my
Classic.
God. Like I am, and this is like, there's not massive behaviors. And I'm like crying every day at the end of the day
Right.
because this kid is going to call me poo poo head. I'm like, oh, why
Fantastic.
don't you like me? And it's, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. A lot of times it's not you they're mad at, you're just there.
You're just
And
there.
so you're
Yeah.
there. And so I one of the things to talk about, whether it's 8 or 80 or anywhere in between, don't let those people ruin your day. And actually, when you kind of just let that go, it's easier to approach them and to have the conversation and, see the good. And if you see the good and they continue with the bad, I think then you start to, okay, this is not where I'm spending my time.
Right.
You have to make those
And
decisions.
that's okay too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're trying to model what you expect from how we
Yeah.
talk about kids. And so, yeah, that was I'll tell you one of the things that I really like. There's a lot of, administrator school based stories, a lot of like working with trustees. And I know that's a big focus for you, but a lot of stuff was just being a ref, really, to like,
Yeah.
if administrators get yelled at, but as a ref, you get yelled at while you're sweating and running. So
Sure.
you're like, oh, I get to sit while I'm getting yelled at. This is way easier.
Perfect. One of the things that I appreciate about that ref story,
Mhm.
and I see it over and over in your book, is, and I think you name it even at one point, is that the idea that like conflict isn't an enemy,
No.
but being separated from each other is, disconnection is the enemy. And what that story,
Mhm.
what I see in that story is that's what you did. Like you took that step towards someone,
Mhm.
right? It would have been really easy to just like go to the locker room and grumble,
Right.
but you moved to literally physically toward
Right.
toward conflict, if we could call it that, and found connection in that moment. And I think that is such a like poignant example of times when we can do that, right? Like it
Well,
didn't it
if you
didn't
if you
cost you a whole heck of a lot other than being present enough in the moment, setting your ego aside,
Mhm.
laying down the grumbly nature that we all have on Saturday mornings in rec basketball, whatever it is, like,
It was a
and
Thursday. It was a Thursday.
oh, Thursday night,
Thursday
sorry.
evening was a big
Right,
thing.
but it changed
Yeah.
it changed the outcome.
Well, here's the thing that we always say: like people crave connection, right?
Yeah.
Right. So either I can try to connect with them, or I can ignore them, and then they connect with other people that they could get to hate me too. So, right. So I'm going to try to get them on my side first because I don't need
Right.
two is enough. I don't need
Two's
4,
enough.
10. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that's like one of the conversations is, I even talked about that is sometimes we dismiss a parent, we call them a name, we say like,
Mhm.
we like label them. They don't go like, you know what? I am horrible. Right. They go like, you know what? I'm going to get my friends involved now. And then they bring
Right.
more people too, because we crave connection. So let's be the connector.
Yeah.
So
So speaking of craving connection,
yeah.
another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was so we just kind of talked about like making connections with strangers,
Yeah.
right? Which is something that trustees do in their communities,
Yeah.
right? Like they're representing entire communities, parents, taxpayers, business owners, faith leaders, like all the things, right? But one of the things that we are seeing more and more is that trustees are coming to the board table
Yeah.
already positioned um, as enemies.
Yeah.
Even before they've met one another,
Yeah.
they've they've gone through an election cycle. They think they know someone, um, and it can be a real challenge to then build cohesion and trust
Yeah.
and operate as a unit. And you spend uh, lots of time in this book
Hmm.
talking about ways to ensure that people feel valued.
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote a quote down.
Let's go.
I didn't even highlight, well, I did highlight it, but I also took the time to physically write it down. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
you said,
Get my pen ready.
um, to know your people, you have to pay attention to the smallest of details.
Right.
Little conversations about their interests can help me help them excel.
Mhm.
So, can you talk a little bit about that and how you have seen that, and then also like how that might work at the board table or maybe on the way to the board table with board trustees?
Okay, so I didn't share this story that I'm going to share with you. So this is like a little bonus story.
Love bonus stories.
Bonus story. There you go.
Well,
You didn't know that was coming.
I
So
did it. It's
the
exciting.
so I actually should, and you know what? Now I'm like, I should have shared this story. So uh, I remember when I was a teacher that uh, you're overwhelmed, right? So you know you're
Hmm.
overwhelmed. I'm already overwhelmed, and now I got to do supervision. So I have to do supervision. And by the way, just so you know, I haven't taught. I think since like I was an administrator, so I don't think I've taught since like 2011.
Hmm.
So this is almost 15 years I haven't taught. I still have nightmares that
Say it feels like
it's my
yesterday. Yeah,
supervision day, and I'm not
sure.
there on time. So this never goes away. I'm like,
Yep,
am I supervising today? Like,
I'm
is it
with
my
you.
recess? So I'm not really happy about this supervision that I'm doing because I'm like overworked, can't figure out what's going on. And I remember a principal saying to me, he goes, you're out here, and I can tell you're not happy about doing supervision. What a really good opportunity is to actually meet kids that you don't know and
Mm,
to connect with them. And so you can complain about it and just be here, or you can see it as an opportunity to connect with kids. And I was like, he's kind of right. Like I am. And so what was interesting is I actually started using that time to connect with kids while supervising. It wasn't like an either or, it was both.
right.
And weirdly enough, it actually made my life as a teacher way easier because then, kids would be doing stuff and I'd be like, come on, dude. And it's like, I know, see, like you have built a relationship where you don't have to have like this
Hmm.
long conversation because you don't really know the kid and all that other
Yep.
stuff. And so I think it was like having those little conversations at the same, at the trustee level, is that just kind of having some of those conversations, seeing is like, hey, sometimes we get into these really tough situations and just having the side conversation, just having the little conversation that has nothing to do with the work that's in front of us can actually build us a connection that when we do the work, there is more trust there. There is more connection there. And it's like the classic Covey speed of trust that when you build
Yeah.
those connections, then when you have to do really hard work, way gets done way faster, right? It was one of the things I talked about in the book. I spent a lot of time outside supervision every morning, not because I had to supervise, but because as an administrator, I talked to community. I would connect with them, and then something go wrong, we have like a 3-second conversation, as opposed to I'm taking this to the superintendent because I don't know you. I don't trust you as a trustee. It's just those little conversations on the side that will actually, because people think, oh, this takes time. Totally does. Will save you time long term. And
Yeah.
the approach of what I just did is something I talk about. Like, hey, here's this thing I used to do and get really frustrated with, and then I kind of had an awakening, and then I said, okay, so I'm not like just changing it for the sake of changing it. I'm changing it because actually this is a way better way, and it actually makes the work easier and better. And I think that as a trustee is just those little conversations, the little conversation community with your colleagues, just kind of knowing them as a person. There is a gentleman, and I don't think he is. I think it's Lamont Dean. He is a superintendent in Texas, and he was at a session I did years ago, and I don't think he'll mind me sharing the story. I said, hey, like we were talking, and I said, can I like see your Twitter profile? It was Twitter, not X at the time, right? And he
Sure.
pulls up, and he's like superintendent of blah blah blah. And I said, I know you're superintendent. It's cool, but like, what else do you do? He's like, well, I'm a dad. I go to church, and that these are things that matter to me. And I said, so if you were to put those things first, and then you're a
Mm,
superintendent, I think people would approach you differently because when you're a trustee, like now I can just complain at you. But if you're like,
yeah.
hey, I'm somebody's son, like it's one of the things I talk about. Like we're all
Yeah, I
somebody's
love
kid.
that.
We're all somebody's kid. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, that stupid superintendent. Like I am so mad at this person. And then you're like, go to blast them on social media, like, oh, he's a dad. Do you know what I mean? I think that
Yep.
human aspect, you start to realize that we are not our role. Our role,
Yeah.
and it's one thing I always say, I'm not an educator that happens to be a human. I'm a human that happens to be an educator. It's very different when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Like
You know,
the role of my job is not who I am. That's one aspect of it.
yeah. That idea of being somebody else's, that we're all somebody's kid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's empathy in a nutshell, right? Compassion in a nutshell. Um, so in that, we're all somebody's kid
You know,
chapter.
I had Katie. I don't know if you know Katie Novak. She was on my
Yeah.
podcast. We're talking about it,
Oh
and
yeah.
one of the things she connected with was my parents used to come cook for my. No matter my role, they would always come cook for my schools.
Precious.
And the one thing I said to her when I was principal, I'm a young principal at the time. My mom comes, and my mom and dad are cooking, and I'm like trying to establish myself as principal. Georgie, Georgie. I'm
Of
like, don't
course.
call me Georgie in front of everyone, please, for the love of God. And then after, Georgie, hey Georgie, can you help me with this, Georgie? And as much as it kind of drove me crazy, it just helped me so much with the staff because they're like,
Yeah.
he's that's like, he's still like
You're
her baby
somebody's
boy.
kid.
Like I'm not a
Yeah.
kid, I'm the baby boy. I'm the baby. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Even
just
though you're 6'4",
yeah,
we're all we're all
we're all
our
somebody's
mom's
kid.
babies.
Yep.
Um, that idea of like approaching everybody with that
Mhm.
lens, I think is one of those like stick it in your toolbox
Yep.
moments, right?
Yep.
When we do encounter real enmity or a real adversary, just
Mhm.
reminding ourselves that is someone's kid, right? That is
Yep.
somebody's Georgie, not just
I should have
Mr.
told you.
Couros,
Shouldn't have
right?
said that.
Like
Yeah.
that's a it's it's deceptively simple and
Yeah.
deceptively straightforward, but I think really powerful. Um, and okay, another thing I wrote down. Okay, you said in chapter 7, talking about being somebody else's kids,
Right.
to see and acknowledge something good in someone else, in an adversary,
Yeah.
when it's incredibly hard to do,
Mhm.
broke the tension and opened a pathway to something better. And in my book, I underlined incredibly hard to do,
Yep.
right? And I think that so much of this work, it's easy to go like, oh, this is simple. Oh, this is easy. Oh, and it's not. Like, even if it is simple, it's
Yep.
not easy. But we can do hard things.
Hmm.
But like in those hard moments, we can do hard things. It's the call of leadership. It's especially the call, I think, to board service. Um, is that the buck stops, right? Like we do hard things, and we're called to do that.
Well, and this is actually, I'm like, this is another little behind the scenes. This is, and I separated the book into two parts. What I call the principles, and these are like the things to kind of like the big things to focus on,
Yep.
and then what I call the perspectives. And it's who does this in a book who says, hey, sometimes these principles they don't work because we're dealing with humans,
Yes.
and so like the perspectives will help you kind of ground yourself to kind of like take a step back so you can step forward.
Yeah.
And here's the behind the scenes. The developmental editor actually said, "Hey, like we should mix match these." So I'm like, "No," and I like noted it, and I was like, "No, this is very important to me." Is that because these are really grounded, but they're not going to work. Like,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't say they're not going to work. They're not
Every
going to work
time.
as is all the time. And the example
Yeah.
I use is when someone says to me, hey, we started doing this and it has worked with 90% of our kids. My first question is, what are you doing for the other 10%? Right? Because
Right.
like you can't just say it's good enough. It's like, hey, like we're missing out 10% then. And so we have to make sure that we maybe take a different strategy for those 10 because nothing in education works 100%. And to actually say that outright in a book, like, hey, I've provided these principles to you and they
Yeah.
won't always work all the time. And so
Right.
these perspectives might help you to kind of recalibrate and figure out how to maybe take a different direction when you need to. So
Yeah.
that is like that was a really important thing to me because to say like, yeah, hey, everything it's 100% effective, you'd be lying. right? And so that
Right.
I think it builds trust when you say to the reader, all this works all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love that. That
Behind the
grounding
scenes
principle
with
of
MacKenzie
like,
and George.
what?
Behind the
What are you
scenes with
saying?
MacKenzie. Behind the scenes with MacKenzie George.
Yeah. I love that little peek into the writing process. As someone who writes, but
I know someone who
doesn't
writes
write
and
books like
reads.
fancy people,
I'm gonna take fancy as a compliment. I'm a
do
fancy
it.
person.
Yes. Yes. You
So,
should.
fancy. Here, just wait. Oh, she called me fancy.
Wah, wah, wah.
Okay,
I
one.
didn't know there were sound effects.
You got one last question. Even though you're the
Okay.
host, this is it.
All right. One last question.
By the way, it is. I love. It has been really interesting. This is the third time I've done this. By the way,
Okay.
and I don't know what's coming. Like no one tells me the questions before. You kind of share. I'm like, I don't want to look at this. I want to kind of be surprised because I want to be conversational. And your perspective is just really fascinating. What you took away, and I love that. And it's kind of like one of the things I think really matters in the work is people say like what is your objective of like what you're presenting, what you're writing about. Well, like I really want to do these, like for example these things, but I want people to find their own solutions. And what I wrote about this so long ago, said all learning is personalized because I don't know your experience, I don't
Right.
know what your strengths are, and I don't know where you want to go. So it's interesting that every interview has been totally different and have totally different takeaways. So I love it that I don't know what your takeaway was. So I really appreciate some of the insights you're sharing, especially in your role. And to be honest, you're seeing how effective you are in it because you are a master of, like I said, building. Because I don't think you have the vision. I know you have the vision, but I don't think you have the vision and then figure out the relationships first. You build the relationships, and then you might have somewhat of vision, but you build it with your community. I think that makes it way easier to focus on moving forward.
Well, you just summed me up in a nutshell, friend.
Yeah.
I mean, my foundation is people and connection,
Mm-hmm.
and from there we build. But
Yep.
without it, I struggle to see the way forward if we don't have connection.
Yep.
And I mean, I just saw that all over your book, and
Appreciate that.
the ideas will stick with me. Um, one of the things that you close the book with is the idea of
This is Mackenzie's proof that you read to the end.
it's yes,
That you close the book with
did. I
on the
closed the
very
book.
last page in the
I
last word.
read I might have only read the last page. No, I didn't. But somebody asks you about a community school.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And thinking so much of what boards do is community
Yeah.
centered, right? It's not only student centered, it's not only even school centered or district centered, it's community centered. And I wonder what you think if you talk about like every school
Yeah. A
is a
community school.
community school.
Yep.
So if we take that idea, how do you think things might look different if boards governed and communicated and made decisions with that idea of every school is a community school?
Well, okay. So I want to take a step back and talk about that question because,
Yeah.
first of all, I'm Canadian. So I was like, I don't know. I don't even know if that's a thing because I don't want anyone to feel like people that focus on community schools that their work isn't valuable. I'm not saying like, oh, this is you
No,
just do
yeah,
what everyone else does. But that question, someone said I worked for community
it's a
schools, but you
different
seem
thing.
like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and so I was like, tell me again, like kind of modeling what I was talking about before. I'm like, I don't like, give me some more context. What are you talking about? I don't really understand. And she started kind of listing off all the things. I'm like, that's how we always do things, right?
Yeah.
We always look for that too. I'll give you again an example, and this is why I love the conversation because I can give you examples in the book and out of the book. And out of the book is kind of interesting because now, and hoping is that people will use this supplementally if they're reading the book. And this like a little bonus. We had this room in our school, and when I was a principal, and it was like interesting because we had a very severe behavioral program, and it was like really severe behavior, and the room was used to kind of like safely ensure kids weren't getting in trouble, stuff like that
Yeah.
too. But what happened was, and this is before my time, other classrooms would start using that room in a negative way. And it was a bone of
Ah,
contention in the community. They're like, if my kid ends up in that room, you will be sued. Like,
yeah.
right? So I
Yep.
remember having the conversation. So this is like this is the challenge that's happening behind my back that I don't know about from the community. So I started asking around about it, and I found out this is a huge issue. So then I remember talking to the leaders of that program. I said, "Do you really need that room? Like, do you really need that room? Because I don't ever see you using it." They're like, "You know what? We'll be okay, George." So I made sure they were okay with it. So this room, I talked to the staff. I said, in our community, we actually are really trying to get kids to use technology in a really meaningful way, but some of them don't have access at home and some of their parents feel uncomfortable supporting them. One of the things I want to suggest is that we take that room that is at the front of the school and we actually make it a technology hub for parents, whether they want to do online banking, whether they want to, work on something that they're doing in school, and that actually be like a parent hub, and it can be open to them. They could come in, they can use it, they can leverage this, and we can maybe do some workshops in there and help the parents through the process. And so teachers are like, yeah, it's a great idea. Parents loved it. And here's what I did. I saw the issue, and one thing to talk about, like if you don't address the issue, it doesn't go away. It just gets worse. And
Right.
so what I did is I'm like, hey, here's this issue that we have, and I know who's having it, and we also have something that we're trying to do with the community. Can we leverage that room to actually be, and so that room became one of the biggest wins in our community because parents felt supported and they saw the huge negative become the major positive for our community. So it's kind of looking at some of this stuff like, how do we actually take the thing that's negative and flip it so it can actually be something that serves our community, can actually be helpful to that. And that is, again, kind of going back to the conversation, when I work with the community and I listen to them and I serve them, I talked about how we would do things that, and Jill Seiler made a really good point. She read the book, one of the first ones to read it. She said, it's interesting how you've taken all the work that you do with innovation and tied it to this topic specifically.
Yeah.
And she made me realize that my whole career has been trying to reach out to people who are terrified of the thing that I'm saying. So how do I get them where they
Mm,
feel comfortable with it? And so really kind of going to the people and really understanding what they need, kind of moving backwards from there and serving them and going back from that community. It's always been it's just been my mindset. And the best education I ever got in this was growing up in a restaurant with my parents where everyone felt they came in and they were like, welcome to this community. They were really welcome. They loved being there. And my parents made amazing food, but it wasn't just that. It was
wasn't
all
just
the
the
other
food.
stuff. It was all the other stuff. It was like, who's greeting you at the door? Who's the conversations? And so it's just my mentality with it. A great supplemental book. I know, like, trying to promote my book a little bit here, but another book I really love, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Look
Love
at
that book.
us.
Yeah.
I drank all of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Great book.
Yes.
And like, I loved it, but I also loved it because it's like, yeah, that's what I do. So,
Yeah.
so here's the
Yeah.
education version if you have to pick one,
Right. Right.
just so you know.
Absolutely. We'll
Yeah.
make you a New York Times bestseller
Let's
too.
go. Let's go. Yeah.
Let's
So
go.
I think that's like, it's kind of working backwards from them to say like, hey, what's this
Yeah.
problem? How do we flip it to make you see you're part of the solution? And so we used to bring parents in to our PD, like, hey, you're terrified of this thing? Come see it. And
Come
they're like,
in.
oh, this is actually awesome.
Yeah.
I want this for my kid. Okay, let's go. And it's like bringing people in. I think that to me is, we could have
Yeah.
just said, hey, you know what, parents, suck it up. That's what this room is used for. And it's like, well, that's going to hurt us in other areas. So let's just see what's good and see what's possible with this. And can we actually leverage this in a totally different way?
So many good opportunities, I think, for boards of education to do that kind of listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you did, respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we just listen, if we involve our communities in strategic planning or in the selection of our new superintendent or any of our bond proposals, all those things, it's great. But the real magic is when we can respond to what we are hearing in our communities and make a difference.
Well,
I love
so
it.
you said something earlier about, and like I'm just reflecting. You said something earlier about how you're going against a trustee in an election, and then you have to work
Oh
with the
yeah.
person, right? So you know this about me. I'm super competitive. Like I'm very
Yeah.
competitive. Like I want to excel in everything I do. And here's the thing that I learned really quickly. When I became an administrator, I want to just be the best administrator ever. And so my mentality was like, how do I like crush other administrators? Like that's how I first started, right?
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, oh, actually, that's not how you win at this. How you
Right.
win as a leader, as an administrator, as someone who serves a community is everyone else does well because of your work. So when everyone else wins, that's when I actually win, not when
Yeah.
I beat you, if that makes sense. And it was
Totally.
like I'm listening to you, and that was like a huge shift for me because I'm like, I'm gonna be like way better than this person and this person, and I'm just gonna be my way, and that's just kind of like the growing up with Michael Jordan. You got to beat everybody, and then it's like,
Yep.
no, actually, in this area, even going back to refing, you know how you be a bad ref, you show up the other ref. The best refs
Mm.
make the other refs look good, right? And that's kind of the process is that when you are in this team sport, you win when everyone wins. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like that kind of going last. So I was listening to you, I was like, oh yeah, that was a big shift for me because yeah, it was like crushing everybody, but at the first, and it's like, no, actually that doesn't work here. No,
No,
Can't be Michael Jordan principle.
if only.
if
If
only,
only.
if only. Well, hey MacKenzie, I know it's your podcast, and you thank you for liking the book. Thank you for reading the book and then liking it because I was terrified. So your insights in it are so appreciated, and I just know from your role, I really hope it can help the people that you serve as well. So I'll let you finish, but
Okay.
what's one thing you want to end the podcast with since you are the host, and then when you're done, I'm gonna hit the music.
Then there's music. Okay. So you thanked me for reading it. I'll thank you for writing it. When we were talking offline, I I told you, and I'll say it publicly, like I think books like this are people are hungry for them, and we want we want a way forward. And that's really what you've created here is examples and practices and ideas for how we can move forward without losing our humanity
Mhm.
and without seeing other people's humanity destroyed. So I loved your book.
Thank you.
A plus.
Thank.
If I had my red
I was
pen,
like,
A plus.
a plus.
A
Okay.
plus.
Yeah, well,
And
hey.
thanks for having me on my podcast.
Okay. Well, thanks for host. I'm going to say one last thing. I just want to say it,
Yeah.
and then you can
Okay.
say bye.
Okay.
I share a lot of examples of my work, but I also was inspired, and I share a lot of examples of other people doing amazing work. So, like, to think
Yes.
that I'm the only person that's ever figured this out, not true. I'm just a really good collector of stories, and so a lot of the stories are already happening in schools, and so hopefully, as I say in the book, that some of my hindsight can help someone's foresight kind of moving forward. So, you're the best, MacKenzie. You made me
Back
feel
at you,
so right.
friend.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. MacKenzie, say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, you got a laugh track in there too. I don't know how that's sucking.